What's up, fam? It's your boy Demuir here, purveyor of all sounds underground. Thank you for joining me today. I am going to take you to a very special place that has helped me discover my sound and approach to production, and ultimately help inspire the build of this YYZ Underground sample pack for Loop Masters. So let's go. Finding your sound is vitally important. It's the number one thing that will distinguish you. You can learn a lot about a person by handing them your plate. Every week, Beatport receives over 25,000 releases or tracks. So you think about that degree of saturation in music, like what would be the thing that distinguishes you? And it's your sound. It's vitally important. And Cosmos Records has been instrumental in helping me find my sound and ultimately my own voice as an artist. Thank you, man. Thanks for having me here. This store means so much to me in terms of my production journey. I first I got into hip hop originally when I was making music. We were like understanding these hip hop records, and we're like, where are these guys getting these sounds, right? Yeah. So eventually it just got to this place of discovering our parents actually already have these records in their collection. Yeah. Like this one, Jimmy McGriff, Let's Stay Together. Right. My dad played this record probably every morning, to wake me up to go to school. Yeah. And to come into the shop and see clean copies of this record. Yeah. And you eventually discover other things that are out there that help influence, at least for me, my musical palette. And one of the important things about this sample pack with YYZ Underground, it comes with all of this infused can you imagine? In it. And to be in the same spot where guys like Madlib, Pete Rock, Questlove, this spot is.
Dilla used to sit on the floor and dig, and
Jay Dilla too. That's the holy grail right there. The Gap match.
But those guys, those guys that I mentioned, they work hard,
and that's why I pay a special ode to this place, because everything you hear in the sample pack is not only a reflection of me discovering my sound, but the journey. I want to spend some time and show you how this, what I do outside of this record shop to compile the music. And
after the record leaves here, I don't know what they do with it. So
yeah.
So what is your approach to creating your sample pack?
Creative sampling is a term that I throw around a lot, especially, we've had these conversations with hip hop. Yeah. And it translates to what is done in electronic music as well. So the process was exhaust every piece of kit in my studio as much as possible. So my Arturia Matrix Brute, the Mini Brute as well, and the Arturia Microfreak definitely got featured in this pack, along with the Moog Sub 37. Anything that was analog and warm, I went after that. So I ran some things through, some analog tube 610 preamps, any distortion preamps. It all worked out very well.
So what is your approach to creating? Is it the beat or the lyric melody?
For me, it could be anything, even above and beyond that stuff. It could be a picture, something I saw. But generally, most of the time, I'm starting with a melody. Sometimes it's a beat, but most of the time it's with a melody, and I just anchor myself around that. A lot of people think sample packs are this thing that it's there to make things linear and you just drag and drop and the song is done. It's actually quite the opposite. It's really about the person who's, manning the ship, so to speak. So if I anchor myself most of the time on the melody, I'm listening to the groove of what I hear in that melody, and then I'm just building everything around it. Mm-hmm. So things like Loop Cloud are actually a fixed part of my workflow.
So you make music for the club in a non-club environment. How does that work?
Great question. Well, it's just part of your your process. For me, it's more of a feeling, right? And visualizing how the music will be received in that environment. Like everything you do that you want to have happen in a club, you can put into the energy of that music. Having these types of products, you can immediately get out of the whole thinking process and just execute.
Putting the digital aspect of it and putting it together with someone like yourself, you know, and the experiences that you had, and putting it together is a really good marriage.
When we're talking about record digging back in like the 90s and stuff.
How does that, you know, how would
I have never
dreamt that, you know, this would happen,
could coexist.
Yeah.
Like a digital world of a sample library versus digging for records as the source. It's actually a beautiful
I think it makes sense.
marriage, completely, because they just complement each other in this new world, and it's not going away. So happy to be a part of it.
Yes, yes, yes. What is up, everybody? I'm Joshua Casper here with Beatport and Plug-in Boutique with an extra special studio secret live stream. Later on, we're going to be joined by Demuir. But before we do that, I want to talk about why this particular stream is so special. It is a giveaway, and literally all you need to do to be entered to win this giveaway is just comment subscribed rather in the chat, or even after this live stream is finished for an entire week. If you just comment subscribed under the archive, you'll be entered to win. In a week's time, we're going to announce the winners, and the winners will be contacted through YouTube. So just keep hitting that subscribed, and you'll be entered to win. What you could win are gold, silver, or bronze packages, and these are not just credits. We're talking about gold gets a Pioneer speakers set, headphones, 6 months of Beatport streaming, and a store credit on Beatport worth $100. Silver, Plug-in Boutique VST bundle, 6 months of Beatport streaming, and store credit on Beatport for $50. And then the bronze package will get a different Plug-in Boutique plug-in bundle, 6 months of Beatport streaming, and a store credit on Beatport for $20. So 3 people are going to win those incredible prizes, and all you need to do to be entered is just say subscribed, and we're going to pick 3 people at random. So if that doesn't make any sense or enough sense, we're going to leave links to the actual landing page over on the Beatportal website, so you can get full T's and C's, terms and conditions, that is, and see the prize packages. Will be links to everything fully described there. I'm not going to take up too much time because I want to get to our guest and get to the presentation, but that's what's going on today. And I'm really excited because I'm going to be joined by Demuir today to talk about his incredible productions. He's the one that was actually featured in that video we played just a second ago. And let's just go ahead and bring him on. Demuir, how are you doing?
Great. What's up? How are you?
Oh, I'm absolutely fantastic now that I'm with you doing this stream. I love giving things away, and Beatport have honored me by allowing me to do that today, alongside of getting this presentation from you. So before we jump into that presentation, do you want to tell me a little bit about yourself, kind of your background, and how you've made it from where you were to where we are today? And if you want, talk a little bit about that sample pack, because I'm very, very curious about it.
Okay, that's a lot, but I'll try my best to answer it all. I'm Demuir from Toronto, Canada here. I've been making music for a very long time, but professionally for the last 7 to 8 years, DJing and producing. Mainly known for jacking house productions, but I also produce in house, Afro house, tech house as well, and some techno. I've released on a lot of different labels, including Hot Creations, Defected, as well as my own imprint, Purveyor Underground, that I started recently. And we also have had the great opportunity to have both a digital and vinyl side to the label. So it's been great. So that's me in a nutshell. During the pandemic, things really sort of caused me to refocus and just ask myself, what are some of the things I'd like to do in production? And one of the biggest things that I've done is, started my YouTube channel and had that permeate into more the education side of things with my Patreon channels as well. And just helping people, realize their dreams in production. Um, and I share whatever knowledge I can because it's just something I wish would have been around, like things like this stream. I wish this stuff was around when I started my production journey. So, that's pretty much it. As far as sample packs, the latest one is YYZ Underground, which is the airport code for Toronto. And I had a lot of fun making that one, and that was a follow up to House Crate sample pack, and both are available on Loop Masters and Loop Cloud. And I can say firmly that Loop Cloud and Plugin Boutique definitely parts of my firm part of my workflow. It's just great to be able to have a resource of sounds quality sounds that you can go to and make your own. So I hope I covered everything there.
You did. I kind of hit you with like 5 different questions at once, but I think you knocked them all out
You
of the
did.
park. Can you tell us a little bit what people can expect from that sample pack? And, is it your style of music, which I believe is Jack and House and everything around that area? Is that what people can expect in that sample pack, or is it a departure from that?
Yeah, it's predominantly before I started building out that sample pack, I also have a Discord channel, and I've asked, the producers in that channel, hey, like, what do you want to get out of this sample pack? Because I'd say House Crates was more of a musical sample pack. Like there's a lot of synth lines and acid bass lines in there. And it was very clear from the community what they wanted out of YYZ Underground was more drum bass loops and stuff. So that's where I focused it. But the thing that I did different with it is you can't see it; it's off camera here. But I leveraged my MPC X to just do all of the drum loops pretty much, and we broke it down into different parts because I really do believe nothing swings like the MPC. It just has a nice organic, almost human-based feel to it when it comes to swing. So that was really the focus. And, I still managed to add some chord stuff and bassline stuff in there, but it's predominantly swinging drums for house music or Jack and House. And it could be applied to soulful house too. It's just all about how you apply it in your project.
Absolutely fantastic. And is that available on Loop Masters as well, or exclusively on Loop Cloud?
Uh, I want to say it's Loop Cloud. It's part of the Artists Presents package. Or sorry, Beatport Sounds package, rather. Uh, and I tell you, if you haven't used Loop Cloud yet as a producer, I highly recommend it. I personally come from the school of, you got to grab your vinyl, listen to the records, chop up the beats, and be original like that. But honestly, for those of you that watched the video prior to the stream, you would have seen that I actually went into the record shop that has really molded and influenced my approach to music, and it's predominantly from vinyl. But I've concluded that the two can coexist. So having a retail outfit like Loop Cloud, where it's hands-on, it's right in sync with your DAW, and you're dragging sounds in and you're chopping them up and processing them to make it your own, is really phenomenal. So
nice.
It's been great.
So what are we about to check out today? What do you have in store for us coming up in the demo?
Yeah, I'm excited because while we were talking, I just realized I used one of the samples from the YYZ Underground pack as one of the beat loops that's in here. So what we're going to do is have a preview and breakdown of a track called Ruth from my forthcoming Visions album, which will be available on vinyl sometime in November, and then digitally on Beatport exclusively for about a month, probably around the December timeframe. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to step you through. You'll get a preview of what the track sounds like. and I'll step you through just the concept, approach, why I do the things I do with this particular project.
Nice. Definitely point out which one of the samples you used is in the pack. And I just want to be absolutely certain here. We're about to check out an unreleased track. So it's kind of a bit of a Beatport Studio Secrets exclusive.
Definitely. Yeah, this is not released at all, so
nice.
Looking forward to sharing it.
Absolutely. So what we're going to do is slide over to the to your DAW, and I'll let you take it away, all right? And if anyone has any questions for Demuir or about the contest in general, go ahead and at Beatport, and I will get those questions, and we'll get them answered here on the stream. But in the meantime, let's check out this project. Go ahead, man. Take it away.
So, thank you so much, Joshua. All right, so this track is called Ruth from my Visions album, LP. Ruth, the concept behind this as it pertains to Visions is, I don't want to sound too deeply spiritual here, but it is a biblical character reference, and it represents strong women, such as my mother, who recently passed on, or transitioned rather. So I'm excited to share this with you. So with any song that I do here, actually, why don't I just play the track for a few bars, let you have a good listen, and then I'll break down the approach. So here we go. Get to the first breakdown here. So that's the preview of the track, or the essence of the track rather. With any sort of song that I'm about to create, I like the creative process to be serendipitous. Like, so if I run into things and it sounds good, I just run with it, and at times when it stops sounding good, I'll abandon the idea completely. But I started out with this, and I anchor everything around this. So this is just a sample I chopped up, and it's just, you can hear the swing in the essence in that. And I knew this vocal, let's see if I find it here. This particular vocal, how can I resist you? It's just something that worked well. Like, it's a vocal, it's very powerful, it stands out, and considering the subject matter being, Ruth, this character of a strong woman, I just wanted to have a vocal in there that was sort of having this conversation about the beauty and essence and strength of this woman. So I have my groove, and from that groove, I had the bass line. It was already underneath it, so I'll play it here. It's side chaining a bit, and I'll get into that a bit more later. I actually played bass over it too, just to make sure it's more full right here. So again, everything is anchored around this main loop, that I chopped up and put in here as audio. I think I chopped it up in Serato Sample, actually, which is a great tool for dragging in audio and chopping it up and making it your own specifically for our music. Now, when it comes to my sample pack, this is the beat break or beat loop I use, but I actually filtered it quite a bit here from what I could see. Yeah, so I did a big cut here, low cut, because I like the shakers in the beat loop itself, and that's available. But again, all of this stuff came about once I anchored around the main loop and started putting pieces in there that just made sense and felt right to the beat. And of course, the other important thing is just making sure the kick is right in key. So I think this is B minor. You can hear like the groove is right there. And once I had a solid kick, which is the 909 in this instance, I knew everything would just come together. So I just added my open hat, classic 909 open hat. I got a filler snare in here. This is also a 909 snare. So once I have those components, and I can tell you a lot of my projects, I should explain here, I make a clear distinction between what is audio, so that's all the blue stuff here, and what is MIDI based, like anything I played or had to program. So this I know is the bass line, and the other piece is the drums here coming off of Native Instruments machine. And I have it, like when it comes to the drums that I program, I got them all split out here on different pads. So you could see pad 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And certain treatment is applied to certain instruments, which I'll get into a bit more. But I like to have that clear view of what is specifically audio and what I've actually programmed. And having this distinction is important, because if you need to go in and make changes, you're able to, pull out clearly, okay, this is what I did. Here I use the snap here, so I'm going to go into machine and swap out the sound. Because it's MIDI, I still have the pattern there and it's all, good to go. So to come back here to the audio pieces, again, just building on the main loop and putting instruments that complement the key and the swing and the melody of that main loop, things just came together nicely. Like the vocal itself. Let's talk about this for a second. So the vocal is just "How Can I Resist You?" It's a male vocal. But one of the things I wanted to do is make sure it had a lane where I was ramping it up from a filter perspective. So that piece I have there specifically for the reason uh, that it just sounded better using this particular filter, which is the RX 950. I believe it's on Plugin Boutique for a very reasonable price. It just sounded better when I split it up onto its own lane. And then I just have the open sample here. And it just sounds cohesive and works well. So I'm going to get more into the processing a bit later. Now that I have the groove here, I start getting into things that I want to play now that I know what the key is. So one of the things I do fairly often, like with house music or jacking house, a lot of people tend to use like a crash cymbal on the one beat, on the downbeat, to sort of present a change in the song. And I was like, well, why don't we just do something different? So I'll use like a different sound. It's off camera, but I use on this one. I'll play a sound. This is coming from my ASM Hydra synth. It's off camera, but it's down here. And I just recorded that in straight to the DAW as a mono sample. And you could see across the project that I dropped that every once in a while for the downbeat, to indicate there's going to be a change or something happening within the song, or to conclude that a change has been completed. So here's what I mean by that. So in this case, I know I'm playing off of the vocal just by the way it looks. So let's solo these out. So I have the vocal event happening here, and then it's filtering up, and then right here in a downbeat. I do that often, and to me, it's good to have some form of difference rather than sound like a lot of the songs that are out there. Everybody uses a crash cymbal. Well, change it. Use something else to indicate a change. The other thing I did here, because I had the key of the song and I knew what was happening, I just added like a one-note Rhodes thing. I think this is from the ASM Hydrosynth. And I just recorded it, and you can hear it. It's in key. And these are all subtle things that add to the groove, that keep the song interesting, because our music is so repetitive and loopy. You got to do these things to keep it interesting. And then there's a down sample. Come back into the drop. So those are all the audio components. Let's talk a little bit about some of the MIDI pieces, which I'll go through quickly, and then I'll get into the processing pieces. So, like I said...
Hey, Demuir, can I jump in for a second?
Yeah, go for it.
It's a banger of a track. Just wanted to say I'm listening on my end, and it's got one heck of a groove. I really like that, even just that little Rhodes that's kind of got a filter, adding movement to it. That sitting with the real synth there, it's just really they play so well together. And you throw in that dirty bass line, and you got just those elements with the drums are bangers. Well done, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I just wanted to jump on to let people know who are just coming in that we are doing a Studio Secrets today with the one and only Demuir. We're running through one of his yet-to-be-released tracks that you're listening to right now, and we are doing a massive giveaway. And to be entered to win, all you need to do is say subscribed in the chat. And even if you're not here, you're watching this after the fact, for an entire week after this has been archived, you will be able to just comment subscribed, and you might be able to win. I'm not going to go through all of the prizes, but it's a lot, including some Pioneer speakers and headphones. We'll leave links to everything in the chat. And also, if you have any questions for Demuir about his production style or anything else he's been talking about, just at Beatport, and they will send those to me, and a little bit later down the line, we'll get those answered on stream. But with that, keep rocking, man. I'll get out of your hair.
No worries. Thanks, Joshua. Okay, so let's talk about the MIDI components, all the stuff in green, which is, as I said earlier, is indicative of me actually doing something, playing something, rather than the audio chops of dragging and dropping pieces in. So I said earlier, I played the bass line over. So I could have just left the filtered bass here. But the problem with that is it's pure rumble, right? And you can only pick up certain notes in the bass line when it's just the filter bass line. And a filter bass line, just for simplistic purposes, is basically filtering down the main loop and EQing it as such, where you're enhancing the lower frequencies out of that main loop. So it's a technique I do a lot. I've been doing it since I started my production journey, which was in hip hop, and it just works here. But I knew I needed to enhance it by adding, a few notes, and it required me to play them. So it just sounds more cohesive. So if we just listen to it with my bass notes out, actually sounds a little bit thin. Add the bass line in. So it's much clearer and it's adding to the groove. Subtle things, but necessary to sort of fill out that part of the track, in my opinion. And then the rest of it is just pure drums coming off of the Native Instruments machine here. So I have it all split out, all 16 uh, instruments or pads rather. So I'm going to solo each one accordingly and just talk through it. So uh, I layered the hi-hat. I could see that right here on pad 3. And that's just to complement the 909 here. So you can imagine if, if it was just that one open hat, it would sound thin, but layering it just makes it sound much more robust. So we have that piece. And then I do this often. It's just like a 1/8 swinging close hat. It adds swing. It adds subtle dimension to the track. And I think the next is a snare. And I'll talk about the snare here. This is what I call like a jacked up snare. But the thing about the snare is you'll notice in the processing, I've added distortion to mimic like an old school, SV 1200, just an old school sampling machine. Um, Adding distortion also adds harmonics to instruments, so it's just broadening them on the frequency spectrum. I got this tip from Harry Romero, which is to throw Pultec EQ on your kicks and snares. So I've been doing it ever since. Uh, the Pultec is a hot EQ, so like anything else, it's important to make sure you gain stage the instrument. Once you have the plugin on, uh, that is super important. And I'm just going to leave it at that. You can do your own research on the importance of gain staging. But the Pultec runs very hot, and it's important you gain stage it. I like to gain stage to the desired headroom of -6 dB. And then you'll see here I've just pushed, or I'm parallel compressing this signal, the snare, to my snare bus over here. Sorry about the bar. And that's running through the DBX 160 compressor. I actually had the hardware version of this like way back in the day, and I regret selling it. It's such a good piece of kit. But you'll hear the difference when I shut it off. Hopefully you can hear that difference. It's a little subtle. And then the other thing that I do is make sure I clear out any mud in that snare below 100 hertz. So I do this a lot with snares just to make sure things stand out. The other piece is I've added a clap here. And I'll do this often too when it comes to claps. I'll have like a main clap on a 2 and 4 beat, and then I got one just behind it, like a fraction behind it, which is the snap. Again, it all sounds layered, and I'm going for a human sort of feel here. So sometimes I'll just leave the velocity varying. Like one clap could be louder than the other, and I'm going for that feel of, there's 5 people in a room clapping over to this dope main loop, right? And that's the reality. When people are in a room clapping, you all have different textures of your hands, um, and some people hit slightly off, and it's good to bring or mimic that human element into the track. So Those are the claps. Looks like I added a bit of percussion here, like a conga. Let me mute the main sample. Yeah, so it's very subtle. And I panned it a little bit. And it's going to my drum bus, which I'll get to in a second. And then the last piece is I got a clave. There it is. So all these things together make a huge difference in terms of filling out, the swing and the groove of the track, but you don't need like 30, 40 tracks kind of mimicking what the other's doing. You just need really good sounds and placing them in the right areas with the right amount of swing, so it sounds natural and is grounded against the main groove, which is the loop. Everything is anchored back to this shot, and making sure all of your instruments, including the drums, are in key. I do want to share, I said earlier that I have a few things going to my drum bus, but I don't have everything going to it. Let's find it here. So this is my drum bus. No, that's the snare bus. My bad. Drum bus is here. So I got it going through a Shadow Hills compressor. And it's very gentle. There's not too much aggressive stuff going on here. I like to use compressors that are musical and they're not squashing the hell out of a sound. Things, in my opinion, should breathe. The more dynamics you have in your track, the better sounding the track will be. So those are the drums. Why don't I just solo it out so you hear everything that's drum related. Good, intro kick, got that. The vocal out, the Rhodes. I think that's it. Let's listen. I got the bass line there. And even like listening to the snare now, it still has a bit of low end in there that I probably scoop out, but it's done now, and it's okay. It's not so much low end that it's distracting once all these other elements are on top of it. Get the bass line. All right, so I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the processing used, especially on the audio elements. You can see there's a lot going on here. Serato sample. I just bounced it to audio after I chopped it up here, but it's generally an instrument I use quite a bit. Let's talk about the filtered bass line. So let's solo that one. So let's throw all these up. And I'll explain what I did. I think I just got it running through console one. Oh, I do have an EQ on it. So I use this is called serial EQing, when you have one EQ and then another EQ following it. So, like I was saying earlier, a good filtered bass line to me gets as much of the lower frequency harmonics out of a sample as best as possible. And you can see I sort of did the same thing here with the 950. So it's really, all about the bass line that was underneath that main loop. But the star of the show here, when it comes to making this bass sound the way it does, is the SPL Vitalizer MK2T. I'm going to shut this off and you'll hear the difference. It's like, this thing always blows my mind. And when I was making this song, I was fighting between using heater, which is another great sort of low frequency saturation tool, versus the SPL. And I was A-Bing between them just to see which one sat better in the mix, and the SPL won out. So let's play it with it on and off. And then here, this rarely happens. Sorry about that. I hit the mic. This rarely happens where I have an LFO and track spacer happening to sidechain the kick. But because of the way the elements in the sample were playing, it just sounded better. So, there's no prescribed way to, have this done. I think every project will demand a different approach sometimes, but generally the principle is the same, which is to get the good stuff out of the audio sample. And in this case, it's the filtered bass, and make sure it's sitting well in a mix, and that someone could clearly distinguish the kick here, right? There's our kick. This is what I'm looking for. I want to make sure I can hear the kick clearly, and I did say click, and it's coming through very nicely. So it's just working, But this was a big one because I spent a fair amount of time on the filtered bass line, and like I said, when I add my own bass, I get all of the notes clearly. And I will say to this, any low frequency deserves a side chain. However, on this track, based on the way I played the bass and where it was sitting, I didn't need a side chain on it, or an aggressive side chain on it. I opted not to put anything on the bass line that I played, which is the Scarby bass from Contact here. Let's see if we can pull that up. And I use this bass quite a bit on a number of different tracks. I used it on Lusting You. I've used it on High Live and Dirty. It's
hey,
just
Demuir?
great. Yes.
We got a few questions if you want to take some.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go for it.
Great. Just before we jump into that, people who have just come in, we are doing a giveaway today. I've been saying that you need to comment, subscribe in the chat or on the video for up to a week after it's archived, but you also need to be subscribed. That was a key piece I missed out. That's on me, but be subscribed, comment subscribed. You might win any of the great prizes that we'll be linking in the chat as we go here. But in terms of questions for Demuir, one is, do you mix your own tracks? And if so, do you mix as you produce, or do you mix as a separate step after you feel like your project has been completed?
Yeah, I'm smiling because we were debating this in our Discord channel a few weeks ago. I mix as I go along, but I do pause. I give myself about 2 or 3 days space from the track, and then I come back and make any final adjustments. Mixing as I go along just works for me. I use console 1 here predominantly to do stuff, and I'm not, I won't say I'm the best person to mix my stuff down, but I do know what I want, and that's just over years and years of trial and error. But you can always improve, right? So I do think, mixing as you go along is great because you get to make sure things sit the way you want them to sit. But do give yourself the space, come back and do the last minute tweaks, and be honest with yourself, because there's times like I said earlier, this lead snare here, if we go to the processing for that, where are you? Pad 6. Like I was saying, I would probably do this a little bit different because I'm still hearing, I'm still hearing like the low end stuff in the snare, but whatever, it's printed, it's done. But it gets better over time. So that's what I do. I mix as I go along. and give myself some space before I finalize it.
I think that's a massively important and valuable piece of advice. Just giving yourself a few days away. Authors do that, after you publish or after you write your manuscript, you put it away. And the longer you can put it away, and the fresher your ears in the case of music will be when you come back to it, it's gonna help you improve. Because when you're just in it, for hours and maybe even days on end, you just get lost in it. And I think that's just, a lot of people don't do that, and I think that's really great advice, man.
Yeah, thank you. It's hard to do, especially if you're working with tight timelines, but trust me, it's invaluable. You need to give your ears rest and come back to it, because you'll hear things very differently.
Another question was, what kind of processing does the vocal have?
Oh, sure. Let's remind ourselves what we did there. So, where are you? Yeah. So here's the processing. This is Logic EQ. I don't think I did anything dramatic with console 1 here. Only on the filter part. Okay. So this piece, the vocal, the main piece. How can I resist you? So I started off with this EQ. I wanted it's obviously a male vocal, but I also wanted the clarity here in the upper register of about 2 to 6,000, 8,000 hertz, kilohertz rather. And here's the thing: I leave console 1 on every channel, so it actually, in my opinion, it sounds different. Even though you haven't engaged the EQ on console 1, having the signal pass through it, even after you've EQ'd it with a different EQ, it still sounds different.
Interesting.
The folks at I welcome anyone to experiment with it. I'm not going to do it now because we'll be here all day, but I welcome anyone to experiment with it. Just let it pass through, even if you don't have anything going on console 1. It's just like, another good example is like this, right? I have this on my master bus, but I don't use it all the time. But I can guarantee, if I turn this on, let's look at this. This is a frequency analyzer. So if I turn it on, and you now see the hum and like the hiss coming from this plugin, and I'll shut it off and it's gone. So that being said, these emulators or plugins are so good. They also emulate certain characteristics that are a part of the original machine. And the console 1, I believe, is mimicking the SSL desk, if I'm not mistaken. And the British Class A that they also sell is mimicking the Neve desk. But anyway, try it for yourself. It does color the signal a little bit. So I let it pass through console 1. And then I use this a lot, the Galaxy Tape Echo box. I love the sound system. I use this a lot. Sometimes I mess with the feedback quite a bit to give me that sort of dubby, Jamaican dancehall effect. But this is the star of the show. I use this pretty much on any vocal project, which is the Neve 33609 SE. It's a very musical plugin, and it doesn't come with all of the aggressiveness out of a compressor or something that you sometimes get. So it's on there gently, but it works very well for me for all vocals. So
nice. Someone's wondering if you've ever made any jungle.
Yeah, I have. There's actually that was one of my first vinyl tracks. It's available. I have a new jungle track available on my SoundCloud called Champion Sound, or My Sound Disc. Anyway, it's there.
Is that
you
just
can check it out?
Just people search Demuir on SoundCloud and we'll find you, yeah?
Yes.
There you go. Wonderful. Another question. Oh, if you got more.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, just one more thing. So that's the main part of the vocal, that one, and then there's this filtered part that I mentioned before. So it's the same processing, but I got automation on the 950 filter. And as I said earlier, I I wanted it on its own lane because it's just so much smoother, and I can always get what I expect out of it.
Gotcha. Someone's wondering how long on average it takes to create a track.
For me, I what I do a lot is I do a lot of what I call sketching. So I'll come into the studio with like an idea or a concept in mind, and I'm going through sounds. And like as I said before, with this project, I anchored it on the main loop here. So I would sketch up to like 16 or 32 bars of something. So with this one, I know I definitely did this. I put all the sounds together probably in about 2.5 hours, sketched it, and then I walk away from it, and then I come back and listen to it maybe a day or two later, and just to make sure, do I have all of the sounds that I need? Do I need to swap out a snare? And if I feel comfortable, I got everything I need, I'll just arrange the song. That takes maybe an hour. So with final mix down on average, I'd say about 5 hours,
Oh, wow.
give or take. Yeah.
Impressive. Someone's wondering if you do any coaching on making music, and I'm guessing that's probably something you do on your Discord server.
Yeah. So what you're seeing here, I do a weekly production stream on my Patreon. Um, so everything you're seeing here is generally what becomes available on my Patreon every Thursday, with a subscription. And then there's more intense coaching. I have an elite program, which I have 2 spots open for. Um, but that's more intense. Comes with a master class and 2 hours of coaching. So yeah, to answer your question, I do that.
And again, people, if to find that, can just search Demuir on Patreon.
Yeah. Or if you got questions about the elite program, just DM me and on IG, and I'll get back to you for sure.
All right, nice. Last question. Samples versus instruments, which is preferable and reasons why?
Okay. So the I'm gonna sound like a politician. It depends on the situation.
Yeah,
And
100%.
but it really does. And this track is a perfect example of that. Like I could have just left this with with these two, right? The filter bass and the main loop going. But listen to how much better it sounds with the bass line when I play it. Doo, 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 doo. So I say this all the time. It depends on the situation. However, um, from a production perspective, if you want to become, you know, or maximize your capability with production, learn an instrument, man. Like I can't tell you how invaluable it is. I grew up in a home with a classically trained father, and he predominantly played keyboards and guitar. But it trains your ear. You sort of know when things are truly in key or out of key, or how far out of key you can step. And it also translates to like drum instruments. Like, when drums are in key, it sounds louder. Like that's a simple tip that I'm giving away to people. But that comes from, when I'm playing a bass line or adding chords on top of stuff, I immediately know when something's in or out of key, or if it can be enhanced, I'll just play it. It's a huge advantage.
So do you use something like Big Kick or something similar for kick design, or are you getting a sample and then tuning it yourself?
I'm using Loop Cloud. That because the beauty of Loop Cloud is, and honestly, I don't want to sound like I'm advertising here. I'm really not. But let's pull this up here. Let it do its thing in the background. But the beauty of Loop Cloud is you can go through a bunch of sounds. And like I said, once you know the key of the main sample you're working on, I'm just highlighting this here, you can lock it into that key. Whatever sounds you're previewing on Beatport, on Loop Cloud, you can just select that key, and everything you hear coming back to you, you have the comfort of knowing it's in key, and it's, and again, when it's in key, it sounds as loud as possible, and then you process it and drag it in to your project.
Sync to the project BPM as well.
Yeah, it's really amazing that way. And again, like I said earlier, I come from the school of thought of get your vinyl and find your unique sounds, but the technology today allows both to coexist.
Well, I think it's kind of what Loop Cloud is this way. I mean, there was over 4 million sounds in there, so it is kind of like sifting through vinyl, but instead of a fully mixed track, you're finding that one maybe loop or one shot that suits what you're looking for. So it's like record digging, but sample digging.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I was listening to I think his name is Raphael Cavallino. I'm sorry, Raph, if I messed up your last name there. But I was listening to the track and he sampled one of the beat loops out of the YYZ Underground, and he put it in key and it sounds dope. Like I was like, wow, So trust me, that is really where it's at. Serato Sample is another great tool that will tell you the key of whatever samples you're messing with and just anchor everything around that once you have it.
100%. Well, do you have more to show us? Not get out of your hair?
Yeah, sure. I mean, processing wise, I think if for those who don't have Trackspacer, make sure you have it.
I've 3 years in a row I named Trackspacer the MVP of plugins.
This is like this thing. A mastering engineer told me about this. Said you could probably literally put a D mark against my music catalog. Pre 2017, I wasn't using Trackspacer. And he's like, you really need to use this because your kicks aren't being distinguished as clearly. This thing is incredible, and it's not really, like some people are like, oh, you're giving away all the secrets, and it's not to me, it's not a secret. If you want to, produce great music, you will eventually run into someone talking about this tool. It is the number one thing.
I also like, what do you mean? Like, I want to hear more good music. So it's a publicly available plugin that is like magic. So yeah, I'll tell you what it is, how to use it, and just show me good music at the end of the day. That's all I really care about.
Yeah, for sure. I think the only other thing, because I get asked about this a lot, is my master chain here.
Well, I'll let you do that. I just want to let everybody know about the giveaway. To be subscribed to Beatport's YouTube channel and comment in the chat or on the video after for up to a week to be entered to win some of these glorious prizes, including speakers and headphones from Pioneer, I believe. I don't have the absolutely fantastic gift set. 3 winners chosen randomly that are subscribed and have commented subscribe somewhere along the way. I'll let you get into that mastering chain. I'm looking forward to checking it out.
Sure. Thank you. So yeah, my master chain here is for this particular track is as follows. So we'll talk about each one in a bit. So the first thing we start off with, you're probably wondering, geez, like, why are you gain staging on your master chain? And the only reason why I do that there, I don't do it all the time, but it's because of this thing. I use SonarWorks to calibrate my room, when I'm mixing stuff down. And it's probably one of the biggest reasons why I'm allowed to mix as I go along. SonarWorks is a great tool that tells you uh, how things sound from those speakers you're using in that particular room. It's been a huge game changer for me. Um, but the thing about it is, when you actually bounce the track out, you got to make sure it's off, because obviously, if you leave it on, it's going to calibrate whatever is being bounced out. So, one of the things with SonarWorks, it has a like a headroom piece, and when I was doing this track, I think I didn't have a safe headroom item there, so that's why I've reduced it by 8 dB there at the top. It's just to avoid clipping and to make sure I get the desired minus 6 dB that I want. Next in the chain is this is a dead mouse tip, and a lot of other mastering engineers recommend this too. It's just shave out 30 hertz just to get out any rumble at a slope of 24 dB. Uh, I have this as a template on all of my projects, especially with the music we make. You'll always have rumble that's there that is silently eating away at your headroom. And I say silently because you can't even hear it unless you have the speakers, like club speakers in your studio, to play it. So it's just best to shave it out and get back the desired headroom. The next piece is the SSLG compressor. I tend to use it very lightly, and that's why the threshold is here, because I want the mastering engineer to just do their thing. Having limiters and stuff on your master chain is not a good thing. And it's unreasonable to expect a mastering engineer to make magic out of stuff if you got a whole bunch of inhibiting processing going on. Then the other thing I do, just last step, is just to clean up the low mids and give it a listen. On this one, it looks like I even took down the highs a little bit. So that's basically my master chain in a nutshell. And I bounce it out. I pull this down to minus 6 dB and send it off for mastering. So that is it.
Wonderful. Well, I'll bring us back. Thank you very much for that run through. It's a really great track. Do you have a release date planned?
Yeah, so we fingers crossed it's going to come out on vinyl first in late November. So I'm saying fingers crossed because we're waiting for the test presses to approve them. And then the digital release of the album will come out in mid to late December, and will be available on Beatport for a full 3 to 4 weeks. And there'll be remix packages coming after that on vinyl as well. So we're pretty excited about it.
Love the vinyl. Where can people expect to be able to pick up a piece of vinyl? Then obviously after that, Beatport would be the place to go, yeah?
Yeah, so it's available for pre-order now on Juno. Again, the album is called Visions. Fred P. is also a collaborator on the album, along with vocalist Tush Love here in Toronto and Aaron Gray from New York. So I'm very proud of the album. I'm happy it's coming out, and you can grab the vinyl copy on Juno.
Nice. Absolutely fantastic. How many tracks are on it, if you don't mind me asking?
We got a total of 8. The digital version will have just under, I think, 15. Just for allow DJs to play dubs. I have a great tech house track that will only be on the digital version with Faruqi, who's a up and coming tech house producer out of Toronto here. Has done some fantastic music, so looking forward to that.
Fantastic. Well, I look forward to it as well, and I'm sure everybody else who's been watching does. Thanks again for taking the time to walk us through that and giving us the pleasure of being able to hear a track before it's actually released. Love to do it. Love to see it. Thank you so much for that. Thank you to everybody who's tuned in from Twitch, from Facebook, from YouTube, wherever you are. It's not too late to enter the competition we've got going. All you need to do is be subscribed to Beatport's YouTube channel and comment in the chat. And if you're coming late, just comment under the video archive and you'll be entered to win. And we're going to call the winners in a week's time. And again, full terms and conditions are linked everywhere in the chat, under the video, in the description, if you're looking for full information there. But it's been an absolute pleasure, man. I'll let you get back to your busy schedule. And I look forward to doing this again, man. Next time you got something coming up or you just want to share something, let me know, and we'll put another one of these on for everybody.
Will do. Thank you so much for the support and having me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime. All right, everybody. I'm Joshua Casper for Plug-in Boutique and Beatport. This has been Demuir here for Studio Secrets, and we will see you in the next show.
Peace.
To the top, ragamuffin keeps striving in every way. International, what they call me international. When me ride, I'm in the mood, but the rhythm